What's up, guys? I'm about to do a lift kit install on my TRX4. Here's the kit and everything that's supplied except for my offset 4mm extra wide axles there. We'll have to do that when we take the portals apart. Alright, let's get started. Guys, we're going to start by first getting our shocks out and getting them full of oil and blood and getting them all put together and ready to go. Alright, first thing you want to do is take your cap off. Start filling it up with oil. I like to try to get it just below the threads there a little bit. Okay. As you can see, it's right there below the threads. Now we'll just work it real slow. The directions say you need about a 1/4 inch from the top of the shock, which is just about to the bottom of the threads in there. So if you've got too much, you can always pour a little bit into the next shock if you need to, which looks like I'm going to have to. So just take your new shock, pour a little in there. With it fully compressed, the oil needs to be right at the threads. If you put too much in there, it might lock up. You really don't want that to happen. Alright, I think that's going to be fine. Then just put your cap back on. Get it pretty snug there by hand's about as good as you need to be. Alright, now we can do our spring. Spring on. Compress it. Put your cap back on. And let your spring go. That's it. According to the directions, you need 3 of them adjusted at 5 and 1 at 9, the left front. So at the bottom of your instruction sheet here is a pretty good little measurement. So we need to screw this one down to 5, and the last one I do, I'll make it 9. So looks pretty dang close right there, and that's it. Alright, once you get your shocks all filled up and springs on and adjusted, looks like next thing to do, we need to take off our drive shafts. So that's what we're going to do here. Should be little set screws right here, here. There'll be one on each one of those. I don't know exactly what size, so bear with me here. Looks like a 1.5 Allen hex is what you need. If I can get her in there, there we go. And retain all the hardware you take out, because you will need it, most of it, to go back together. All your ball end screws for your trailing arms and all these drive shaft screws as well. Should just squeeze together, slide off, Now we will be coming back to these after a while we'll have to be taking them apart, and since we're getting a lift, it's extending everything as well. So we'll have to change out one of these ends. I don't know how to read the instructions, but it did come with new ends to replace, to make them longer. So get out your drive shafts, and then we will move on to the next step after that. Alright guys, next step after drive shafts is going to be take off your diff lock cables. So you have one screw here and one screw here for the front and rear, and these just pop on there. So I'll take a little screwdriver, just give her a little pop. There you go, she's loose. Do the same thing for the back. Don't have to take it off the axle just yet. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but you do gotta take the cables loose so you can get your axles out. Let these screws come out. Power tools are always quicker. I just didn't have any bits to fit, so I ended up using just my screwdrivers. And there we go. Cables are loose. Now you will be able to take the axles out and not worry about the cables catching on you. Alright, next we will need to get the rear axle out of there. So you need to take all your 4-link screws out. So you have one here, and same on the other side. Now take all your links loose from the chassis. You also want to take your shock bolts loose. One here, one on the other side. So get all those screws out and get your shock screws out, and that way your whole assembly right here will come out. Alright, got all the screws out. Now everything should kind of pop out of place. I'd give her a little tug, a little wiggle. And there it is. Set this aside for just a second. And there is the whole assembly. Now you can take your shocks off because we'll be replacing those, and I think all these links got to come off too. I figured I would just show you. When you're disassembling all this stuff, sometimes it's hard to remember where all these screws go. A bunch of different lengths. But if you do, for some reason, forget, in the instructions, it shows you the length, the size, and the length for each and every screw. So it's very helpful. Plus this little measuring tape here on the bottom helps out a bunch. So keep that in mind. Don't be too worried about screws. Sometimes I like to, if I take a screw out, like say this one here, I'll just stick it right back in there, maybe give it a couple turns just to kind of keep up with where I'm at. And you will not be using these ends anymore, these rod links. Since the kit did come with longer stuff, you'll have to have the longer stuff for the lift. So like I said, if you think you might not be able to keep up with the screws, you can just take them, stick them back in there, give them a couple turns, that way they don't fall out, and there you go. Now you know what come out of there. I think our next step is going to be replacing this cable with a longer one. The kit did come with longer cables. We will have to make those changes because of the lift as well, because as your axle goes down, it's going to be stretching on your cable. So that'll have to be longer. And also I've got extended axle shafts here to make my ride a little bit wider. I figured if I was going to go up, I better go out a little bit too, or it's going to be extra tippy. But as you can see, these are 4 millimeters longer, and probably about right in there. You can see how the shafts, the ends of the shafts are going to be a little bit sticking out further. That'll give me some better stability, widen out my path a little bit. So we'll be getting to that here in a little bit. We'll be taking this portal apart. Alright, time to disassemble our portal. While we have this axle out, I'm going to install these longer outer shafts from a portal. So right now, there will be 2 screws, one right here, one right there. I already took them out. This whole portal comes off just like that, real easy. That's basically what you got in there. So we can set that half aside for now. And then now we're going to focus on this. We need to get this portal apart. There's several screws right here that you can see. All those are going to have to come out, as well as just taking this hex off. So there's one right here that we need a different size for, which is the 1.5, I believe. Yes. Might as well get started here. Take this out. Set that aside. We'll need that again. Your hex just slides right off. Now we can take all of these screws out. Oh yeah, see, now it'll just come right apart. Shouldn't be much to go wild in here. There's really pretty simple. But this is the shaft that we need to change. Basically just slide it out. You can kind of set that down. You'll need your little pin here. So there's the old shaft. Here's the new longer shaft. You can tell it's going to give me just a little bit more offset on the outside. So your little keeper pin goes back in. Everything slides back in like normal. And that's all there is to that. Now we can go back together with this part of it. Make sure everything's meshing. Give her a little spin there. Shouldn't have no problems. Alright, put all your screws back in, and then we'll address this side. Once you get all your screws in, all 8 of them, 2 on this side, 6 on this side. Make sure everything's still spinning the way it should be. Pretty simple. Slide your collar spacer, and then you'll need your hex. You have to line that up with the hole. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but line that bad boy up. Put your little pin back in. And that's basically all you got to do. And do that for both sides of the rear axle. And when we get to the front axle, I will go into more detail on how to disassemble it. Alright, got portals back together. Got my 4mm longer axles in there. Stub shafts, half shafts, whatever you want to call them. Now we got to do the cable. And then put all our new longer rod links and stuff back together on it. Shocks, and then we'll have the rear end done. So, here we go. First thing, I would recommend taking this little E-clip off. Small flat tip screwdriver if you've got one. Should be able to stick it in that little slot. Give her a little twist. And there you go. She's off of there. 4 bolts, screws right here. That'll take your cover off. Let's get those out. Alright, 4 screws are out. Back cover ought to come off. We'll just Wiggle that dude off of there. There you go. Now we're into the differential here. Now right here, as you can see, is where the cable clips onto. And right here's a little slider that locks your gears together, back and forth. Now this being the rear axle, you will need the longer of the two cables that came in the kit. I don't know if you just seen that, but I took a screwdriver and just barely kind of pried out on it right there. And that should have set me free. So there we go. Now the whole cable should slide through there. And there is the little unit that locks it in, which is made of plastic. Would be nice if it was metal. Save the end, you will need it on the new cable. Fish that through. There you go, cable's out. Alright, let's open up the new cable. Now, like I said, you will need the longer of the two. This is for the rear axle, the long one is for the rear. Goes right through just like the old one come out. I'll clip it back in here. It goes from the top, kind of curl it in downward like that. Right there. You should be able to pull everything back through. I believe the cable only goes in there one way. It's got like a flat spot on it there. So once you get it in there, it won't twist. And that'll keep everything where it needs to be. So, let's try this again. Get a little closer here maybe. Make sure your cable will pull through right there. You can see where the E-clip's going to go and kind of hook your fingernail on it. Go ahead and finish pushing this back into its spot. Make sure that it's lined up with the slider there. There you go. Alright, cable's on. Now it's time to do the new E-clip. Take your needle nose. Do that right there. Bam. Got it. Give her a good wiggle there. Everything's good. Push on the cable. You can see it slides it over. You pull on it, it brings it the other way. Alright, everything's in working order. Now just put your case back on, your cover. Put your, you want to screw this back on the end. Remember to hold this with your pliers so you don't twist your cable up. Really don't want to sit here and twist that because that'll definitely tear it up. But put your 4 screws back in. Just so you know, in the packaging, this package with the extra rod ends, these will be your links for the rear. This package will be all for the front. There's 3 links set up. So, we're going to get this opened up, get it all installed on here. Time for the new links for the rear axle. As you can tell, these have slightly angled rod ends. They go on the top versus the bottom ones are straight. So according to this, it needs to angle away from the axle. So when you put it in there, make sure that it's pointing to the outside on the top. The bottom's pretty self-explanatory. Just stick the ends in and put your screws in. They obviously take the shock and the rod end in one screw, so don't forget to put your shock on. And then on your lower links, your reservoir needs to be up, just like that. Tighten her up, and then I'll do both sides, and then your rear axle will be ready to go. Then we'll move on to the front axle. Guys, time to remove the front axle. We disconnected the diff lock earlier. You'll need to take all these link bolts out right there. And on the front here, you have a panhard bar. Take it loose from the frame side, and you'll need to take your steering link loose here from your servo. So that way all this comes out, because we'll have to be changing the servo mount for a drop down bracket and all that here in a little bit. But get all those screws out, all your link screws there. There's 1, 2, and there's a third link right here. Panhard, steering servo link. Get those out, and then we'll continue. Also, don't forget your shocks. Flip it back over. This screw right here, and this one right here. That will take your shock off. Everything should just kind of pop out. By golly, got quite a bit going on here, but there it is. You can leave your panhard on. All 3 links need to come off. Shocks, obviously. Take your 8 screws out. 1, 2, 3 here. 4, 5, 6 on this side. 2 on the outside, and that'll pull your outer cover off. That way you can change out our axles. So let's get that handled. And bam. Yeah, way easier. All right. So now we can slide our axle out. Oh, gotta take our hex off. Can't forget our hex. Easy peasy. There we go. Half shaft is loose and out. Keep your pin. Old parts aside. New half shaft. Basically the same as the rear, so I'm not going to bore you with all those details again. Just put everything back together and put your 8 screws back on here, and by golly, you got her done. Pretty easy. Do the same thing on the other side, and that'll take care of your half shafts. Then we'll move on to the differential locking cable. I went ahead and did the differential cable without you guys, because you done watched me do the front, and it's pretty much the exact same way. You just gotta pop your E-clip off there. Take your 4 screws out for your cover. Slide everything out. You know, hook your cable back into the slider notch thingy, and then put it all back together. That being said, I'm going to put my other shock on. Make sure that you put that wide flat area to the screw. The shorter, or I guess it's longer, but it's skinnier area towards the axle. And I believe it's time to move on to the frame, where we take out our steering servo, put in our drop bracket. Alright, basic rundown of how to change out the servo mounting bracket, which is down in here. It is actually sandwiched. Hope you can see that. Move this wire a little bit. But that bracket is in between the frame rails, little C channel. So in order to get it out, we're going to have to spread the frame out just a little bit. Hopefully that'll give us some room to do it. So this front battery plate has to come out. obviously the screws for the servo, and then we can pull the servo out and kind of move it over out of the way. There's no need to unplug it. Servo horn's got to come out, and then all these frame screws, and these two screws here are the main ones for this bracket under here. And as you can see, it's down in between the frame rail. So all these screws have to come out, and continue on down the frame here. We have to be able to spread this thing out. Yeah, we can leave that one. So let's take these two out right here, because that's what holds it in, these cross member transmission. I'm going to start taking all these screws out. Again, if you forget where these bad boys go in the instructions, it shows every single screw for every single spot, even in the frame. It shows you which ones to take out, what size they are. That way you can't get everything mixed up. Like right now, got a little pile of screws going on over here. I'll probably have to measure a few when I start putting my axles back in, just to make sure I get it right. Let's take our servo horn off, pitman arm, as the mechanics would call it. I'm going to keep them together. Might have to do a little wiggling here. There it is. Keeping that screw with that just to make it a little easier. Set that aside. Alright. All 4 servo screws are out. Now would be the time, if you have a new servo, put that bad boy in. If I can fit it back through there. Yep, we're just going to flop it over for now. Whatever. Okay. Now comes the frame screws. Those are a 2mm. Just almost took that one out. Remember, that one can stay. Alright. All my screws are out. Bracket screws, frame screws. We're going to do that same thing on the other side. And then I'll see if we can't get that bracket out of there. Alright, got all my frame screws out. When you do that, your fenders and your body mount all comes off. Let's see if we can't get this old bracket out of here. Oh yeah, easy peasy. Dude ought to come right out of there. We can definitely flex that frame now. Alright, there's the old one. New bracket with the drop down. This is for the pitman arm. And it'll go right back in like that one come out. Just kind of sandwich it in there. Get her holes lined up. Okay. So, basically Traxxas thinks of everything. My sucker fits right into the new mount. The fender does, where the old panhard bar goes. So, just wanted to make sure all that was going to work before I got too far along. Now, my servo, which I got to pull my wire back around, but it's going to go in from the bottom now instead of out from the top. So I'm going to have to probably take my bracket back off and get it to where it'll go in from the bottom. Do not unhook your wire There's really no need to. Alright, bracket. Servo needs to come up from the bottom. Wire is a problem. See? It's going to get in there. So, coming from the top, just go sideways. Bring it down like that. Servo's got to go like this. Put it right back in. There you go. Servo from the bottom. Bam. Put your screws in. Put this bad boy back in the frame. Fender's back on. Our screws in the side here, through the fender, through this bracket, bumper, and the 2 screws back here in the back on the side, down here underneath. Get all that put together and we'll continue. Alright, here she is all put back together. Well, except for my battery plate. That's just 4 more screws, but that's what it looks like on the side there. New panhard. New bracket. Package comes with spacers and screws for the front battery bracket mount plate here. So, pretty self-explanatory. Spacers go right there. Longer screws. That way everything clears. Goes right back in there like that. Bam. Alright. Alright, before you put your servo horn back on, make sure you power the truck up. That way it centers itself. Kill the power. And you want to get it at 90 degrees here, right in the middle. You can always fine tune it later, but this is a good spot to start. You can always do it on your remote too. I don't really think it matters which axle you do first. Guess we'll do the front since it's such a pain in the butt. Route your cable back just right through right there. Just start popping all your links in and putting all your screws back in. And if you don't remember the screws, again, the directions show you exactly what size they need to be. Very helpful. Oops, get my third link back here. There we go. Kind of a jumble getting all this back together, but make sure you get your panhard bar in there and get your steering back on and get all that handled. We'll move on to drive shafts. Alright, all the links hooked back up, shocks, steering, panhard bar. So far so good. Yep, do that. Get all your screws in there. Get your shocks back in whichever spot you want. Looks like there's 4 different mounting holes. I'll just put her back in the stock position. And route your cable back up to the servo. There we go. Put all your screws in. And then we'll work on drive shafts. Alright, we're going to work on the front drive shaft first. It has a, get down there where you can see you. Needs to be a short and a medium. So, pull them all the way apart. Take out the center here. I believe right down there. Might be kind of hard to see. Hang on. Yep. Right down there is a screw. Take that out. You'll be able to take this end off and screw on a medium and a short. One end needs a medium, one end needs a short. So there you go. Actually, one of them already is a short, so we don't have to do both ends, but just one. We'll take that one. Let's see how this one's got. It had two shorts, so it needs a medium and a short. We'll take off one of the shorts and put a medium on there. Looks like we're going to need a... I can't tell. Let me just try it here. I know how to do it. I believe that is the 1.5. Ooh, that sucker's tight. Probably wouldn't hurt to put some Loctite on these screws, but I don't have any, so we're just going to make it tight. Looks like there's still some on that one. Maybe it'll go back together. And stay. Get this sucker good and tight. Okay. Alright, now we have a medium and a short. Go ahead and slide everything back together. Looks like it kind of locks in on this side and mainly slides on that side. Alright, there's our front drive shaft. Easy peasy. Alright, on the rear drive shaft, for a short wheelbase model, we need a medium and a long. Alright, medium and long. There we go. Now we're good with our lift kit. Since these are just like ball sockets, they really won't matter. If it was an actual U-joint, phasing does matter. But this should not matter, being it's the ball type socket. Okay, because right now we are at full droop. Okay, that should be fine. The kit did come with a 10-tooth gear for the motor that we don't need because I'm not putting bigger tires on it just yet. But as soon as I do get some 2.2s on there, or maybe the 54-inch Swampers, we will gear it down at that time. But right now, don't see that we need to. Get this to where you can see it. The cables are real simple to put back on. Just stick the cable back down in right there. Put the screw back in that holds them. have to spring forward just a little bit here. Pop that on. Bam. Alright. Same thing for the back. And that will take care of that. And I believe we'll have everything on. We'll get the wheels and tires on and the body, and we'll check it out.